The Bernie Madoff scandal. This is the story of the largest financial fraud in American history. $65 billion, 37,000 victims, and a lie that ran for 17 years, hidden on a single floor of a building in Midtown Manhattan, while the man who told it shook hands with senators and sat on the boards of charities. December 10th, 2008. The global financial system is already in free fall. Lehman Brothers has gone. Markets are down 40%. And Bernard Madoff, 70 years old, chairman emeritus of NASDAQ, one of the most trusted investment managers in the world, calls his two sons into his apartment. Mark and Andrew Madoff had worked at their father's firm their entire careers. They trusted him with everything. That Wednesday afternoon, he sat them down in his living room and told them something that made the room go very quiet. It was a Ponzi scheme, he said, had been for years. He had perhaps $300 million left. He owed clients approximately $65 billion. He was finished. The sons went home. They didn't sleep. The next morning, they called a lawyer. The lawyer called the FBI. At 8:30 on December 11th, two federal agents knocked on Bernie Madoff's door. He answered in his bathrobe. He didn't resist. He just said, "I know why you're here." $64.8 billion in stated client losses. 37,000 victims across 45 countries. Pension funds, hospital endowments, Jewish charities, universities, ordinary families who had handed Madoff their life savings and watched the monthly statements arrive, always on time, always showing a gain. The money had never existed. The investments had never been made. Every number on every statement was invented. There was no crash, no bad trade, no black swan event. There had never been anything there. The collapse wasn't a collapse. It was just a moment everyone found out. The Nobel Peace Prize laureate Elie Wiesel lost $15.2 million, the entire endowment of his charitable foundation. The Hadassah Women's Organization lost $90 million. Fred Wilpon, the owner of the New York Mets, was so heavily invested he nearly lost the team. Thousands of families who thought they were financially secure watched that security disappear in a single morning. Nobody saw it coming. That's what everyone said afterward. But it wasn't true. One man had been trying to stop this for nearly a decade. He'd submitted detailed reports to the Securities and Exchange Commission. He'd listed every red flag. He'd begged them to look. They did nothing every single time. To understand how Bernie Madoff fooled the world for 17 years, you have to understand who he was before the fraud. Not the villain, the outsider who needed to become something. Bernard Lawrence Madoff was born in April 1938 in Queens, New York. Not Manhattan, not a prestigious address. His family wasn't connected to Wall Street. His father, Ralph, had tried to make it in finance. He ran a small brokerage called Gibraltar Securities. In 1963, the Securities and Exchange Commission forced it to shut down for failing to file required financial reports. Bernie was 25 years old when he watched his father's name get erased from the industry. Bernie decided his name would not be erased. He started his own firm the following year with $5,000 he'd saved from working as a beach lifeguard and installing sprinkler systems on Long Island. No backing from an investment bank. No Ivy League degree. No connections. Just the name Madoff, a desk in his father-in-law's accounting office, a need to prove something to everyone who had ever dismissed him. He worked. He made markets in penny stocks when major banks wouldn't touch them. He was early to electronic trading at a time when Wall Street still scribbled orders on paper. He helped build the infrastructure that eventually became NASDAQ. By 1990, he'd served as its non-executive chairman. He'd done it twice. He wasn't an outsider anymore. He was, by every visible measure, Wall Street. His reputation was spotless. Regulators trusted him. Charities trusted him. Major banks and sovereign wealth funds trusted him. He sat on the boards of hospitals and universities. He gave generously to causes he genuinely believed in. He seemed to be exactly the kind of person you'd want handling your money. The pitch was always the same. Steady returns. Around 12% a year. No bad years. He'd buy a basket of large-cap stocks and use options contracts to limit downside risk. A strategy called the split strike conversion. Simple, reliable, boring almost. And that was precisely the point. Most fraudsters promise spectacular returns. Madoff promised you wouldn't lose sleep. People trusted that. Every month, the statement arrived. One page of clean numbers. A list of trades. A steady gain. Always around 12%. For thousands of clients, that single sheet of paper became the most trusted document in their financial lives. They used it to plan their retirements. They showed it to their children. They slept better because of it. That monthly statement was the most dangerous document in American financial history. In 1999, a Boston-based portfolio manager named Harry Markopolos was asked by his employer to reverse engineer what Madoff was doing so their own firm could compete. Markopolos sat down with the numbers. He went through the returns. He looked at the options markets where Madoff claimed to be trading. It took him 4 hours to realize something was deeply wrong. The options market that Madoff claimed to use wasn't large enough to accommodate the volume of trades he'd have needed to make. The math simply didn't work. Either Madoff was trading ahead of his clients' orders, which was illegal, or he wasn't trading at all. There was no third option. Markopoulos wrote up everything he'd found and sent it to the SEC in Boston. They filed it away. The Lipstick Building was a red granite oval skyscraper on 3rd Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. Madoff's firm occupied 3 floors. The 18th and 19th floors were the legitimate business. Market making, electronic trading, hundreds of staff doing real work with real money. Nobody from those floors was permitted on the 17th. Keypad access only. The 17th floor was where the fraud was. About 20 people worked on the 17th floor. Their job was to produce the monthly statements. And to produce those statements, they didn't need a single trading terminal. They didn't need access to any exchange. They didn't buy a single stock, a single option, or a single share of anything. They needed one thing: yesterday's prices. Frank D. Pascali ran the operation. He had no finance degree. He joined Madoff straight out of high school as a teenager and worked his way up over decades. His method was simple. At the end of each month, the team would look at where the market had actually traded. Pick a date in the past. Assign Madoff's clients positions in stocks that had gone up. Print the statements. Post them. Send them out with a note saying 12%. Here's how a Ponzi scheme works. You tell people their money is growing. It isn't. When they want it back, you pay them using money from newer investors. That covers the withdrawal. Everyone's happy. The problem is it only works as long as new money comes in faster than old money goes out. Think of it like filling a bath with the drain open. You're fine as long as the tap runs harder than the drain. The moment the tap slows, you drown. Madoff's tap ran for 17 years. The Securities and Exchange Commission investigated Madoff 8 separate times over 16 years. They found nothing. Each time, Madoff sat calmly through the interviews. He produced the documents they asked for. He cooperated fully. The investigators never asked the one question that would have ended everything. Did these trades actually happen? They never contacted the exchanges. They never called the depository trust company, where every real stock trade is recorded. The trades weren't there. Nobody looked. In 2005, Markopoulos sent the SEC a 21-point memo. He titled it, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." He listed every red flag. He told them exactly which records to pull. He warned them he was frightened for his safety if Madoff found out. The SEC opened a brief inquiry, then closed it without checking the exchange records. The monthly statement kept arriving. The public assumed the regulators were watching. The regulators assumed their predecessors had verified the basics. Nobody had verified the basics. For 17 years, the monthly statement kept arriving on time, always showing a gain, always around 12%. Clients framed it. Some laminated it. One used it to convince his mother to invest her life savings. They all trusted it completely. In September 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed. Markets fell apart. Madoff et clients paniquent. In November, they submitted $7 billion in redemption requests. They wanted their money back. Madoff didn't have $7 billion. He never had. He called his sons. He told them what he'd been doing. He confessed that he'd run out of road. On March 12, 2009, Bernard Lawrence Madoff appeared in federal court. He was 70 years old. He pleaded guilty to 11 counts: securities fraud, wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, false statements, perjury, and theft from an employee benefit plan. The judge asked him to describe, in his own words, what he had done. On June 29, 2009, Judge Denny Chin sentenced him to 150 years in federal prison. He'd be 121 years old at the end of his term. In the courtroom, victims stood one by one to speak. Some wept. Some shouted. One held a handmade sign with a single word on it: thief. The judge said he'd seen nothing like it in 20 years on the bench. Madoff had told investigators he'd acted alone, that he'd tried to protect his employees, that no one else at the firm had known. Very few people believed him, but the 150-year sentence was his alone. Burt Ross, a former mayor from New Jersey, lost $5 million. Elie Wiesel, the Nobel laureate and Holocaust survivor, lost $15.2 million, the entire endowment of his charitable foundation. He called Madoff a financial terrorist. The Hadassah Women's Organization lost $90 million. Many victims never saw a single dollar returned. For them, the loss wasn't just financial. It was the proof that the person you trusted most could be the one who destroyed you. The fraud destroyed the Madoff family entirely. Peter Madoff, Bernie's brother and the firm's chief compliance officer, pleaded guilty to 2 counts and served 10 years in prison. Bernie's son Mark, one of the 2 who had turned him in, was found dead in his Manhattan apartment on December 11, 2010. Exactly 2 years to the day after his father's arrest. He was 46. He left behind a 2-year-old daughter and a note asking a friend to take care of his dog. Harry Markopolos published a book called No One Would Listen. He testified before Congress. His testimony triggered a complete overhaul of how the SEC investigates financial fraud. The Inspector General's report on the Madoff case found that the agency had been warned repeatedly, had conducted multiple flawed inquiries, and had failed at every level: investigator training, institutional culture, and basic analytical competence. The report was 277 pages long. Irving Picard, the trustee appointed to recover assets for victims, has spent 15 years unwinding the scheme. He's clawed back over $14.7 billion, including money from people who withdrew more than they'd originally invested without knowing the returns were fabricated. Some of those people handed the money back voluntarily. Others fought it in court. By 2024, most direct victims had received back a significant portion of what they'd actually deposited. Bernard Madoff died on April 14, 2021, in the Butner Federal Correctional Complex in North Carolina. He was 82 years old. He'd served 12 years of his 150-year sentence. The inmates who knew him said he was quiet, helpful, and never complained. On a shelf in his cell, they said he kept a small stack of papers, the monthly statements. He'd kept them until the very end. This is a finance channel. We don't editorialize. That is just what happened.